Good. Hello, and thanks for coming back to NoobAquatics. Today we're going to go over attaching plants to driftwood. All right. There are many different ways to do this. You can attach plants to driftwood using nylon, or not nylon, all-purpose thread. You could use super glue. Now, the super glue itself must be cyanoacrylate, cyanoacrylate, right? Cyanoacrylate. Okay, that's what this is. That's what this is. And I'll explain why I got this and this in just a second. All right, you'll need these also if you want. You don't need these, but they're good. Or you can attach it with a rubber band. Okay. My preferred method is using the yarn or the thread. All right. So what do we have? We have Java moss. Okay. Now all this Java moss that I have here was provided to me by one of the members of our local fish clubs. Same thing with this, the Java fern here. All right. Beautiful Java fern. Now, no matter who you get your plants from, you get them from the store, such as this Windelov, which I've been wanting for a while now. Really like the Windelov because of the way that it has threaded leaves at the top. This I got from PetSmart, and I'll explain something else on this here that I noticed. All right. But yeah, so I got some Java fern, I got some Java moss, and these have all been treated in bleach. So I've rinsed them off. I've treated them in bleach. Now I've actually dipped these for 2 minutes in a disinfecting bleach solution. So I'm pretty certain that these are now safe to put into our aquarium after I've let them sit in dechlorinated water. And of course, this right here, all I'm going to do is whenever I get it ready, I'm going to follow the instructions up to number 4. After that, the instructions are wrong on here, so I'll explain that. Now, the wood I'm using, I just bought myself a piece of Mopani wood. That's what this is here. See, Mopani wood. Now, this one here says it is safe to directly put right into the aquarium, but I have no clue how many hands have touched this or how many times someone has sneezed on this or anything. So I did rinse it off. And then what we'll be doing with this is we'll be boiling this for 5 minutes. Now, because it is quite a little bit long, if it doesn't go all the way underneath the water, you're going to boil on one side for 5 minutes, flip it over, and then boil it on the other side for 5 minutes. And then you'll rinse it off with dechlorinated water that's a little bit colder to kind of cool it down so that you're not putting it into the aquarium hot. This is a piece of catappa bark. Now, this piece of bark will last a long time. I'm going to attach some moss to this and one piece of Java fern. So I'll be putting the Java fern right here around the top. Now, this sits in the aquarium like this. So I'll be putting this Java fern right here at the top. And then I'll put the moss right down here. Now, this one here, this is the one that I'm going to be using the cyanoacrylate for. All right, because of the how it's shaped. And then, of course, with this, I'll be tying some moss around the center stem here to kind of make it look like a little miniature tree. And then I'll put Java ferns along the bottom. So I have two more pieces of Java fern here. Let's see if this one's the one I want. Yep, it's got a bunch of baby Java fern coming off of it. I'm going to take this piece of Java fern here. It looks like the rhizome is going this way. So I'm going to put this over on this side here. And then I'll put this bigger one back here where it's in the back a little bit. All right, kind of like this. Okay. So that it grows outward and this one grows outward. And then it'll look like a tree in here with a bunch of big leaves. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. So like I said, my preferred method is to wrap this around it and tie it. The reason why you get these is because you can rip off small little pieces here of this. All right, just rip off small little pieces, and you'll put it in the place where you want to glue, your plants to. And instead of gluing it directly onto the plant itself, you'll glue it on here. Now, the reason why this works and doesn't work is that if you actually put the glue on there, it'll harden up because of the way that the cyanoacrylate works with the sponges, or sorry, with the cotton. But because of how it is here, I'm going to put just a few drops of the cyanoacrylate and not use these cotton swabs or cotton balls. Cotton balls. All right. I don't know why I couldn't get that out. So yeah, so let's start with attaching the Java fern and the Java moss to this, since I am going to be using the cyanoacrylate, or otherwise known as Gorilla Glue. Okay. Now try not to touch this, of course, because it is super glue. So if you have to, one thing I've learned is that you can take the lid and you can press down on it with the lid. All right, make sure you do it on every side. Precision wise, if you do it the way I just did, it's more precision. You're literally gluing it directly to the rhizome right there. So you just push down and let it sit, count to about 20-30 seconds there. All right, and once you got it pressed down on there, it should stick pretty well. So one other thing I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to add a little more because it's not sticking quite like I want it to. Trying to add as least amount as possible, because once you put this in the water, the cyanoacrylate will actually turn white. And when it turns white, if you have too much on there, it looks kind of funky. Now, it's not a big deal. It will eventually even itself out, so you don't have to really worry too much about that. But it just doesn't look very good in the aquarium once it hardens. I think we got that attached pretty good. Now I'm just going to let this rhizome just kind of float here, except for this one. This one's a brand new baby plant. Now the roots I'm going to kind of just lay over the wood before I put the Java moss on there. And boy, this really just does not want to stay on there, does it? It's like, I ain't want to stick to this wood. Okay, so now I'm going to take some Java moss. Now, one thing I saw online is that some people take this and they like chop it up in a million little pieces and then just kind of place it on there, you know, and hope that it stays. That does work. I just don't feel like chopping it up. So, all right, so I got a pretty big clump here. Now, there's a reason why I got a pretty big clump, is because a lot of this will not actually get glued down. So I know I'm going to glue it here. In order to do that, you can glue right on here, or you can do what most people recommend is just put a really thin strip of glue. And I'm going to try not to glue the roots, but I am going to encapsulate them underneath the Java moss. So now I'm going to take that little clump, press down in those areas where I put the glue. Make sure there's a firm grip down there, firm grip or firm push on there. Okay. So that one's done. So I'll put that in there like that. And like I said, it's going to stand like this up against the rock. So it'll look amazing like that up there. And it'll grow up and get all fluffy. And then I'll trim it and keep it like a bush. All right. This one here, we're going to do a little differently. So like I said, we glued that one mainly because of the angle that it was. For the Java moss on this one here, I'm actually going to tie this one. So I want Java moss around this tree here, like that. So this one I'm going to take the yarn, the thread. This one here I'm going to take the thread, Take a pretty long piece of it. Now this thread will decay, so after about 2 to 3 months, when you know that the Java moss has, attached itself to the wood, because that's what it'll do, you want to go in there and look for your thread and actually cut it off. So what I'm doing is I'm wrapping it around, looping it through there so that it's not tied in the knot, because you don't want to actually have it on there so tight and everything that you can't, let go, that you can't actually get it off. So I'm going to do that 3 times here around the base. You can tie it in a knot if you want, it's up to you, just make sure you cut it with scissors. Alright, but now that I got it there, alright, it should hold quite easily underneath there. And if you really want to, you can always, depending on how you put it in there, you can always take a small piece of cyanoacrylate or a piece of super glue and glue it here so that it doesn't move. I'm pretty confident that this will stay the way it is, so I'm going to go ahead and trim the thread, or the yarn, or thread, whatever it's called. As you can tell, I'm not a seamstress. Alright, so that's on there. Okay, so that's good to go. So that's going to grow up and look like a little bush right there. This can go back into the aquarium, or I could potentially put it on that one there. So Java moss, the more the merrier, Now, this one here, this one's not looking as healthy as I'd want it to be, but this, okay, let's see where the rhizome is going, which direction. Now it looks like it's going both directions. So what do you think? You think we should do this way, Ben, or the other way? Tell me what looks better. This right here? Yeah, I think that looks good. That look good? Okay. So with that in mind, I'm going to actually glue this one right here. Glue this here. Okay. Slide that in here and glue it. Try not to glue my fingers to it, Mm-hmm. In the aquarium. Right. Yeah, just live in the aquarium. Maybe okay. I like fish. Can you come with me? So what does it say about how long you should hold it? It says 45, up to 45 seconds. So we'll go the full 45 seconds, and then I'll go to the next one. All right, so I'm going to let that sit there as well, like that. That's how that looks. Now I'm going to see if it's time to boil this, because this is where my Windelov is going to go. I'm going to put the Windelov on this one. So we'll have to do 5 minutes on each side. All right. So Alexa, set a 5-minute timer. All right, so as you can see, it looks good. So now that you got it there, you're going to take your trusty little scissors and you're going to trim it so that it's even along the sides. All right, so that's how that looks. So that one is done. That one's ready to go back in the aquarium. Like a pineapple. That's funny. All right, I was going to put this one on there. Let me see if I can find another one that works for this side here. Pause that for a second. Record. So I found another one that I can use. We're going to glue it right here. Now keep in mind that the roots, they're all going to stay up here on the wood. So you can just kind of shove them in here on the wood. They will eventually attach themselves to the wood. So let's see here. Let's find this good place here. So I'm going to put it right there. All right. I'm going to put it right there, because this will be what's showing in the front right here. Like this. This big one will be in the back. This little one will be in the front. So I'm going to take the glue. See, I got glue there. I'm just going to shove that on there and hold it down. Of course, trying not to glue myself to the plant or the stick, and hold it for 45 seconds. If I have any more plants I'm going to glue down, I'm going to need to buy some more. All right, so that looks like it is good. All right, so this is what it'll look like in there. All right, so that's what that'll look like. All right, let's move this out of the way. Now, this is the big one. This is the one that's going to go in the center. All right, this one's going to go on the other piece of wood that I have in there, and this is also going to go on there, the Windelov. So, with this, it's got some stuff here at the top. You just cut that off. All right. Now, like I mentioned here before, we got this from PetSmart, okay? And the instructions are a little bit wrong. So Java Fern, if anybody out there knows Java Fern does not like to be put in the substrate. It just doesn't do as well. In fact, it can be just fine in the substrate, but it doesn't do very good. Well, come on out of there. Okay. Doesn't do very good. Once you put it in the substrate, the leaves will start to die off really quickly. So it's better if you put any type of Java Fern and attach it to driftwood or rocks or anything like that to where the roots are exposed. All right, so now the instructions itself say, the reason why we're stopping at 4 is because on step 5 it says place plant in the aquarium covering the roots with gravel. You can, but you'll have better luck if you attach it to driftwood, kind of like I did here. So if I were you and you buy any Java Fern from PetSmart, ignore number 5. Just completely skip that one where it says to place in the roots with gravel. Gravel's fine; it's a little bit more aerated, but I would still put it on driftwood or on a rock and just kind of attach it that way. But the rest of the instructions are pretty straightforward. You want to make sure you get it off here and rinse off any of this extra gel stuff that's non-toxic. Now, if you get any of it in your aquarium, it is safe for fish. But we're going to see if we can get this to grow in our aquarium. So I'm going to go clean this off real quick. You can pause that. Now, one more important thing is that you need to make sure these stay wet. So this is dechlorinated water. All you got to do is just spritz the water onto the plants. All right, and just make sure that the roots and the leaves stay wet. That's all you got to do. You don't want them to dry out. Same thing with the Java moss, just make sure it stays wet. All right. So. All right, so the new wood has been boiled. So let's get that out of there, rinse it off with some cold water, dechlorinated water. This right here is a type of filter that removes chlorine from it, chlorine and chloramine. So no matter which one you have, it's a 10-stage filter that removes both. So that's what we're going to use to rinse this off. Cool it down a little bit. All right, so there's our new piece of driftwood. All right, so in the aquarium, let's see how we're going to do this. So this right here is going to be the back right here because I want this thing to grow. This is where I'm going to put this one right here. I'm going to put it along this piece here. And I'm going to put the Windelov right here in the front. Since it's a much smaller one, I'm actually going to put it right here in this little crack. Like that. So that's how it'll look. Okay. Let's go ahead and get that done. Let's start with the small one and get the Windelov on there first. Windelov. However you say it. I like the way both of them said. Give this another good shake. Okay. Now this is in the back, so we shouldn't see this. Let's see here. Which way is the rhizome going? That way. So I want the rhizome to grow outward. So let's put it on there like this. Get that stuck on there good. And you may get glue on your finger a few times. Okay. You won't die. I don't think you will anyways. Unless you're allergic to it, but then you shouldn't be using it in the first place. Don't drink it. Just kidding. Main reason because it says it bonds skinned instantly, so you want to try your best to avoid touching it at all costs. So let's see if it's on there. Yep, it's on there. I'm going to give another little push on here. All right. So now I'm going to go ahead and glue this next piece on here. Now this one, what? Yeah, I'll talk about that in just a second. All right, so this one here is the big one. So this one is the one that's growing in two directions, actually. So the rhizome's both growing right here, and it's both growing outward right here on this side. So it's growing both directions. All right, so that's why it's going to go right here in the back. And it looks like this Windelov needs a little more glue underneath here. So give me just a second. I'm shaking it like it's... Don't forget your water. Water is really important for the human body too. So the way this will sit is exactly like that. So I'm going to put the glue along the back here, and I'm going to just take this right here and just slap it right there. I'm trying not to glue myself to the stick as much as possible, anyways. Doesn't mean it hasn't happened before. Just means I want to avoid it happening. Okay, so I see a few places I want to put some glue that are not quite sticking down, so I'm going to lift this up, put some glue right here on the end, right at where the rhizome is growing out. And I'm going to put some right under here where the rhizome wants to stick to the wood right there. Now here's an interesting fact about these Java ferns. This leaf I just cut off. I don't know how many of you have ever had any experience with this, but you can actually take this leaf, drop it into the water, and as it starts to decay, it'll actually start to grow baby Java ferns off of the leaf. So if you want to propagate it and you don't want to wait, you can actually just break the leaf off, and just like you see right here, I don't know if you see this, right here on the end, you see that little bitty one? That's a brand new Java fern. The same thing will happen to this leaf if I drop it in the water. So if you ever want to propagate it easily and just start growing new ones, that'll be the easiest way to do it. All right, as you can see, it's on there good. So I'm going to take these roots. I'm actually going to lay them up on the wood because I want them to attach to the wood as much as possible. All right. Granted, it's going to be a little difficult, but still do the best you can. Now the last part, okay, I'm going to put this Java moss right here. So, oh, got an itch. And for this one, I'm going to wrap it with, you guessed it, thread. Oh, feel like I got Java fern up my nose. Okay. All right, so the first one, I'm going to tie it around. And this is the only one that I'm going to tie in just kind of like a, I don't even know what you would call it, one little thing of some sort. Go around this little one here because I want it to grow separately, kind of do a figure 8 pattern here. And then the last ones are going to go around the base. The base. All right, and I'm going to tighten that down. I'm going to do another one, and then tighten it down. Remember, this thread you're not keeping on there. You're only putting it on there long enough for the Java moss to actually do its thing by attaching itself to the wood. All right? That's it. That's the only purpose. Now, will it pop off there? Potentially. All right? It will potentially come off there on its own. And I've seen it do that. If it does, you can just take it right back out and you can, start over again. Java moss is pretty forgiving. All right, so I'm going to trim it up a little bit, any which way I can. That way it's even when I put it in there and it has an evenly distributed space to grow. Okay, it's got a little rogue one up here at the top. All right, so that's my new driftwood. All right, so that's what it looks like. Got Java Fern Windelov up here, keeping it wet. All right, keeping it wet. All right, so now let's kind of go over why I don't use these. One, these right here, these cotton balls, the only reason I would use them is if I had something like maybe some coconut peat or whatever it's called, and I could sprinkle it on there afterwards and I can hide the white, or maybe even some dirt or some gravel that you can glue on there to hide the actual white of the cotton ball. Because I just don't want to do that, because that's more of a time consuming thing compared to what I did here. I just don't use them. Second, rubber bands. Why do I not use rubber bands? Well, the reason I don't use rubber bands is because the longer that these stay in the water, they tend to snap off and break a lot faster than the thread. This lasts a lot longer. These, they tend to break a lot quicker. So once they've been soaking in water for a few weeks, they get really weak. And if you have anything in there that likes to chew on wood, like plecos or anything like that, if they grab this and chew on it, it'll snap it, and it could injure your fish. I mean, it may not, but just think about how people used to snap people with these things. That's what it's going to do to the fish's face if it snaps off in their face. Probably not going to be too happy about it. Now, this one here, the reason why I use the Gorilla Glue is not because it's Gorilla Glue, is because the one that's made by Seachem is in a metal thing. This thing is metal. This is, once you get down to half of it left, it gets really difficult to squeeze out of this container. So, my suggestion, Seachem, if you are watching this video, I suggest you put this in a plastic container to make it easier to squeeze out. Something similar to this, but not quite. Something that's easy, like a toothpaste thing. Something that's easier to squeeze. I feel like when I push on this, I'm going to cut right through my finger with the metal because of how sharp some of the edges can get. That's the type of metal that's used. So that's why I avoid this. I did try it, and it works great. It works exactly the same as this, but once you get down to the bottom, this is hard to squeeze out. This works every time, and this big bottle right here, which is a total of almost an ounce, it's set 0.71 ounces or 20 grams, cost only $6. This one right here is 0.14 or 4 grams, same price. So if you want more for your money, go for a bottle this big or even a bigger one. It'll last you a lot longer for a much cheaper price. All right, so that's how you attach plants, Java moss, all right, to driftwood and stuff, making your driftwood and everything much more eye-pleasing, like eye candy. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put them into the aquarium. I probably won't be talking during this one, so once I start putting them into the aquarium, I will, speed that part up. But yeah, let's go put them into the aquarium. All right, so we got them back in the water, but as you can see, one thing about wood that you buy, whenever you buy it from the store and you don't boil it long enough, it doesn't sink, it floats. So I had some extra rocks on hand, and those extra rocks I'm going to use to hold it down. Now I'd say maybe a week or two, the wood will finally have absorbed a lot of that water, and it'll finally come up and be able to stay down itself. And whenever that moment happens, then I will remove those rocks, and I'm going to readjust that to make it more likable. So basically I will rearrange the aquascape after it is finally sank permanently. So, but yeah, so that's how you add plants to driftwood using either yarn, super glue, or rubber bands if you like. Me personally don't like the rubber bands. So, but one thing I did have here, which I pointed out, and you'll see if you rewind, you'll see in the back there that the Java moss right there, like I said, the cyanoacrylic acrylite glue turns white, and you'll see right there on the Java moss how it's white right there. Alright, so that right there is normal. After the Java moss grows up and gets bigger and bigger, the longer it's in there and the more algae that actually forms on the glue itself, you'll see that a lot less. So just like in there and just like over there, you can't see the glue anymore. It just takes a little time, but yeah, at first it'll look kind of ugly, but sometimes it happens. It's not a big deal. It goes away. All right, well, thank you so much for coming here to NoobAquatics and learning how to attach plants to driftwood, and you can do the same thing to rocks. It doesn't matter. And you have a wonderful day. Thanks so much.